It is with a heavy heart and solemn remembrance that I rise today to honor the life and legacy of a former First Lady of the United States, former First Lady of the state of Georgia, a great wife, loving mother, doting grandmother, and great-grandmother, a dedicated servant leader and friend of long standing, Mrs. Rosalynn Smith Carter. Sadly, Mrs. Carter transitioned this life on November 19, 2023. Her funeral service was held at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, November 29, 2023, at the Maranatha Baptist Church in her home of Plains, Georgia. Rosalynn Smith Carter was born and raised in Plains, Georgia, to the union of Wilburn Edgar Smith and Frances Alethea Allie Murray Smith. She graduated valedictorian from Plains High School and attended Georgia Southwestern College, now Georgia Southwestern State University in Americus, Georgia, where she served as vice president of her class and graduated in 1946. In 1945, she began dating James Earl Jimmy Carter, Jr., also from Plains, and whose family farmed peanuts. Jimmy was attending the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland at the time, and they were married in Plains on July 7, 1946. And they would go on to spend 77 cherished years together. Following the death of her father-in-law, James Earl Carter Sr., in 1953, Rosalynn, Jimmy, and their three sons returned to Plains, Georgia from Norfolk, Virginia, where he had been stationed in the Navy, as Jimmy was now tasked with running the family business. Rosalynn took over its bookkeeping, and she proved herself a formidable business partner. After her husband was elected to the Georgia State Senate in 1962, her role on the peanut farm grew, especially while he traveled to Atlanta for legislative sessions. In 1970, Senator Jimmy Carter launched his campaign for governor, and Rosalynn took a leading role on the campaign trail. In addition to handling most of her husband's political correspondence and meeting with constituents, Mrs. Carter began to travel across the state of Georgia to campaign in his behalf. Following Jimmy Carter's election as governor, Mrs. Carter served as Georgia's First Lady from 1971 to 1975, where she would take on the role of Governor Carter's trusted advisor and confidant. She was appointed to the Governor's Commission to improve services for the mentally and emotionally handicapped, where she formally began working on one of her foremost initiatives, improving and breaking the stigma surrounding mental health. In 1972, Governor Carter gave me, a young beginning lawyer, my first political appointment, a seat on the Governor's Advisory Council on Drug Abuse. Governor Carter completed his term in January of 1975, and Georgia's Constitution then banned its governors from serving successive terms. Prior to moving back to Plains, Governor Carter had already announced his intention to run for President of the United States in the 1976 election. Rosalynn Carter once again joined the campaign and quickly began traveling the nation on her husband's behalf to tell American voters why this soft-spoken Georgia peanut farmer should become President of the United States. In November of 1976, Jimmy Carter was elected President of the United States, and Rosalynn accompanied him to the White House, where she would make her mark in defining what it meant to be America's First Lady. While serving as First Lady of the United States from 1977 to 1981, Mrs. Carter made it clear that she had no intention of solely carrying out the duties traditionally left to wives of presidents. As an equal partner to her husband, she attended many cabinet meetings and attended weekly business meetings with President Carter, where she would be informed and could give meaningful advice and counsel to the policy issues of the day. The egalitarian relationship between President and Mrs. Carter drew widespread interest, but also criticism from those who believed the wife of the U.S. president should focus solely on homemaking and hosting White House parties and events for foreign dignitaries. The Carters brushed their critics aside, and in 1977, President Carter appointed Rosalynn the honorary chair of the President's Commission on Mental Health. In 1979, the Commission submitted a mental health systems bill to Congress, and Mrs. Carter testified in support of the bill before a U.S. Senate subcommittee, becoming the first presidential wife since Eleanor Roosevelt to do so. Subsequently, the Mental Health Systems Act was passed by Congress and signed into law by President Carter on October 7, 1980. Following President Carter's loss in the 1980 presidential election, the Carter family returned to Plains, Georgia, where they continued to make a positive impact on both their local community and the world. Mr. and Mrs. Carter continued their ministry of service after their time in the White House with the same vigor and urgency, becoming heavily involved in Habitat for Humanity, whose international headquarters was then located in Americus, Georgia. The Carters' work with Habitat for Humanity drew national attention through the annual Jimmy and Rosalynn Carter Work Project, which helped the upstart nonprofit organization grow and construct thousands and thousands of new homes for low and middle-income families. In 1982, Rosalynn and Jimmy founded the Carter Center, a nonprofit human rights organization which has since become famous for its work to eradicate disease, strengthen democracies, and alleviate human suffering all around the world. Mrs. Carter served as the vice chair of the Carter Center from 1986 to 2005 and served as a member of the Board of Trustees from 2005 until her death. Throughout her life, she sought to improve the quality of life of those who suffered from mental illness and disability, including those who care for them. Mrs. Carter established the Rosalynn Carter Institute for Caregivers in 1987 at her alma mater, Georgia Southwestern State University in Americus. Today, the Rosalynn Carter Institute supports caregivers across the United States through research, creating dementia and Alzheimer's disease programs and other tools that help Americans learn how to be effective caregivers to their loved ones. Mother Teresa once said, "A life not lived for others is not a life." I can say without a shadow of a doubt that Rosalynn Carter lived her life for others and went beyond the call of duty to do so. It's been an honor to know Rosalynn and Jimmy Carter for more than half a century, and I will always cherish their friendship as well as their sage counsel and advice, which has been invaluable to me as I've served in Congress. They have been my constituents for 31 years, and they did not hold back in expressing their opinion on the issues of the day. Together they rose to great heights, supporting and cherishing one another along the way as they served the world around them. From the Plains peanut fields to the governor's mansion to the White House and to communities around the globe, they always remained grounded, and Plains remained home in their hearts. Rosalynn Carter accomplished so much for so many for so long. She did so with the grace of God as well as the love and support of her devoted husband, their 5 children, their 22 grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Mr. Speaker, I ask my colleagues of the United States House of Representatives to join my wife Vivian and me, along with the more than 765,000 people of Georgia's 2nd Congressional District and people all around the world, in honoring the great service to humanity of Mrs. Rosalynn Carter and extending our deepest sympathies to her family. At this time, I would like to yield such time as he may consume to my colleague from Georgia, from the 8th District, my good friend, the Honorable Austin Scott.